Well, let's dive into today's message, kind of picking up where we left off last week. I was talking to you guys about just really feeling a personal call this season to kind of slow down and spend some time really looking at the Christmas story that you can't help but hear over and over and over. I think people that maybe haven't even grown up in church, you might not know the whole Christmas story, but you at least know pieces of this Christmas story. And sometimes we just get really used to seeing a baby in a manger and a couple of people sitting around in people's front yard, and we just kind of overlook the Christmas story. And I was thinking about just even with growing up, it felt like when I was a kid, Christmas was so magical. Like, I just loved Christmas. It was such a special time of year, and my mom and dad were so great. We had all these family traditions. It was such a special time. And the older I got, the less magical it got. In fact, I just got more broke and more tired, and it was kind of losing that wonder and the amazement. And what I realized was, man, the older I get, the more amazing Christmas should be, because the more of an understanding I would be having in what Christmas really meant. And so I have been doing this deep dive into Christmas, and I'm trying to kind of read through the Christmas stories and slowly kind of go through line by line and go, God, show me this in ways I've never seen before. And so in that thought process, in the past few months, behold has been a word that's coming to mind. Behold, behold, behold. And last week we kicked off the Behold series, and we were defining behold as what you look at or you set your gaze upon, where your admirations and your affections are set. What do we really behold? And last week we talked about beholding the wonder of God and just being able to see God's wonder and his amazement and really everything. So we were there last week with wonder, but this week, the message that God gave me is to behold the glory. Beholding the glory. And the definition of glory that we're going to use for today is majesty on display. I mean, when you think of something glorious, you think about the magnitude and how marvelous and magnificent and amazing something is. If it's glorious, right? I don't even know if we have words to define glory, because glory is the defining word, the glory of the Lord. And so I was going through my Bible, and the Old Testament talks often of the glory of God. God really displaying his glory in different ways and things throughout the Old Testament. But when you look up the definition of glory in the Old Testament, you can look up the word in Hebrew, what that word means. And the word is actually kabod. And that word in the Old Testament, kabod, if you go and you translate it, it actually says the definition of glory is weight or heaviness. And I've never thought of it that way, but if you really do, if you think about it, sometimes the magnificence or the magnitude of something almost is weighty, like in a awe-inspiring / terrifying / right? It kind of makes you uncomfortable because it's so weighty. I remember the first time that James and I went cruising, we went out and looked on the water at night, and it was just so vast and so big and so dark. It was glorious, and the magnitude of it was crazy. And I was almost afraid in that moment, but also inspired. It was weighty. It was a weighty moment. And I'm sure there's things in your life that seem so big and so amazing that it's weighty. So when the Old Testament talks about the glory of God, that's what it's talking about. It's talking about when God manifests his presence in a way that is so magnificent that it brings glory, it brings weight to the environment. It's weighty. It's weighty. So this morning, I want to read you a passage out of Exodus. I think maybe we talked about it last week a little bit. And I actually only need to read you 5 verses, but it's one of my favorite passages, so we're going to read like 10. So I get to write the message, so I get to read what I want. So that's what we're doing. But this passage for me, like I said, it's not all necessary, but just bear with me because I just love it so much. I think it's one of the most unique passages in the Bible of God and man having this interaction. And it's just the heart of a loving father and the humility and wonder of a man. So let's read this. Okay, Exodus 33:12. One day Moses said to the Lord, "You have been telling me to take these people up to the promised land, but you haven't told me whom you will send with me. You have told me, I know you by name, and I look favorably on you. But if it's true that you look favorably on me, let me know your ways so I may understand you more fully and continue to enjoy your favor. And remember that this nation's your very own people. So here Moses is, he's talking to God about leading these people, and he's going like, you called me to it. You're gonna have to like give us favor, right? Like you remember, like I'm your boy, okay? And so he's like, you have to go with us. You have to show us favor. Come on, God, like for real, you have to. And so God's response to him, the Lord replies, I will personally go with you, Moses, and I will give you rest. Everything will be fine for you. Then Moses says, well, if you don't personally go with us, don't even make us leave this place. How will anyone know that you look favorably on me and your people if you don't go with us? For your presence among us is what sets your people apart from all the other people on earth. And the Lord replied to Moses, I will indeed do what you ask, for I look favorably on you and I know you by name. Okay, that was the part you didn't necessarily need, but just let it marinate because I let it marinate in me all the time. So verse 18, here's where we're going. After all this conversation of Moses going back and forth with God, like, can you give me some favor? Sure, I'll give you favor. Okay, well, can you go with me? Sure, Moses, I'll go with you. Well, can you show everybody that you're with me? Sure, Moses, I'll show everybody I'm on your team. I mean, Moses is just asking God for everything. But then bold Moses makes one more move. Why? Because he knows the heart of the Father. He knows this is his father he's talking to. So after all of this, where I would say, Moses, you're kind of pushing your luck. Here's Moses. Moses responded, then show me your glorious presence. So the Lord replied, I will make all my goodness pass before you, and I will call out my name Yahweh before you. For I will show mercy to anyone I choose, and I will show compassion to anyone I choose. But you may not look at me directly in the face, for no one may see me and live. The Lord continued, look, stand near me in this rock. As the glorious presence passes by, I will hide you in this crevice of the rock and cover you with my hand until I have passed by. So here Moses is, he asks to see the glory of God. He says, God, show me your glory. You've shown me everything. Think about Moses' life at this place. If you're familiar with the story of Moses, Moses has seen the 10 plagues. Moses has seen God deliver his people out of Egypt. Millions of people. Moses has seen the Red Sea literally part in half and dry up so they could walk through safely, right? I mean, talk about seeing the glory of God. Moses has seen the glory of God. But then here he is in this conversation. He goes, well, show me your glory. So what I know from this conversation is Moses had a revelation that those things that he was experiencing and those things that he was seeing were just a small taste of the glory. He knew that there was more glory. So he asked God to see the full glory. And here's what God tells me. He says, I want to show you my glory, but I can't even fully show you my glory because it's so heavy and it's so weighty, it will kill you. It's just too much. You cannot even handle my glory. He's like, so what I'll do is I'll hide you and I'll set this up so that you can have just a taste so you can see Moses. But that's the glory of God. And I love this passage because there's just so many stories and things that play into this moment of God telling Moses, I'll give you a little more glory. You haven't even begun to see it all. And there's so much more that you can't even see because you can't handle it. So Moses was able to see God's partial glory. He was begging to see it all, and God goes, I'm gonna show you what I can, but I can't even show you my full glory because it's so magnificent. And we look at stories like that and we go, wow, that's just the Old Testament. But when I've been reading through these Christmas stories, I can't help but see that the glory of God is manifested all throughout this story that we read all the time. And we forget the significance of these stories. Oh yeah, there were some shepherds and some angels. Yeah, a couple years later, some wise men show up. I think there was a donkey in the story, right? We're just going through the story and going through the motions of it. We're forgetting that the glory of God that was manifested in this story, it's actually really crazy. The whole turn of events, that was nothing but God's hand and God's glory being interwoven through the lives and the participation of men here on earth. It was the glory of God being manifested everywhere. So last week we read about those shepherds, right? And that the angels appear, right? And the glory of the Lord was around them, right? And we had this situation going on last week. But today what I want to do is I want to deep dive into the story of Mary, where the glory also appeared. And so if you'll turn with me this morning, we're going to go to Luke chapter 1. Verse 27, and we're gonna read through this story. To a virgin betrothed to a man whose name was Joseph of the house of David, the virgin's name was Mary. I know sometimes when we read scriptures like that, if you're not familiar reading the Bible, betrothed, and it was Joseph, house of David, virgin's name, all of these things that seem like if God would just take this verse out, it would be way easier to read the Bible. Just so you know, all those things are historical, and they're all pointing to proof that the coming of the Christ was foretold thousands of years before he actually was here. So all of these things that you see in the story are just hundreds of years of prophecies coming true. And so they're giving you the details of it so that people that can go back and compare will say, wow, this is exactly what was foretold of. So that's why there's phrases like this. So verse 28, and having come in, the angel says to her, rejoice, highly favored one, the Lord is with you. Blessed are you among all women. Okay, let's put in perspective for just a minute. You're sitting in your room, an angel comes into your room and tells you that you are blessed and highly favored among all women or among all men. Are you guys with me on this? The glory of just that moment. Can you imagine being in that moment and God telling you you're blessed and highly favored among all women? But when Mary sees him, she was troubled at him and saying and considered, what manner of greeting was this? What have I done to hearken an angel of the Lord to me? And then the angel says to her, do not be afraid, Mary, for you have found favor with God. And behold, everybody say behold. Behold. I'm trying to keep you Christmas train people awake. You will conceive in your womb and bring forth a son and shall call his name Jesus. He will be great and he will be called the Son of the Highest. And the Lord God will give him the throne of his father David. And he will reign over the house of Jacob forever. And of his kingdom there will be no end. Then Mary said to the angel, well, how can this be since I do not know a man? She hasn't lain with a man. And the angel said to her, the Holy Spirit will come upon you and the power of the highest will overshadow you. Therefore also the Holy One is to be born will be called the Son of God. Now indeed, Elizabeth, your relative, who has also conceived a son, John the Baptist, in her old age, and this is now the 6th month for her, who was also called barren. For God with nothing will be impossible. Then Mary says, behold, the maidservant of the Lord, let it be to me according to your word. And the angel departed from her. Man, those words of Mary for me are something that's been life-changing for me. She says, behold. So the angel comes to her and says, here's what you should behold. And then she goes, yes, I am going to behold your truth. And I'm going to be the maidservant of the Lord. And I will do whatever God's will is. Whatever God needs me to do, I will do that. Can you imagine that moment? What a call. What a call if God sends an angel to you and says, I personally need you to be this unique woman to host the Savior of the world in your womb. Literally, all humanity is riding on you fulfilling the purpose of God in your life. Are you good, Mary? And I wonder really, what did Mary really know at this point? I want to be generous to Mary and go, man, Mary was 14, 12, 13, however old she was, 15, and she was so spirit-filled and she knew everything that was happening in that moment, but she probably didn't. In fact, it said that when the angel came to her and says, and she was scared and she was, I'm afraid, and he says, don't be afraid, and he begins to lay out, you're gonna have the Son of the Highest and he's gonna sit on the throne of David, and she's like, oh, okay. I feel what you're talking about. This is favor right here. You said I was a favored woman. Now I get it. I'm going to have the perfect son. I'm going to have the perfect child. We're not going to do the terrible twos. We're not going to do the bad teenage years. He's always going to be respectful, get his mama Christmas presents, wait till I show off in front of my girlfriends. I'm glad you mentioned Elizabeth because my son's going to be better than hers, right? I'm not saying Mary did it that way, but I might have, right? If I'm honest, like here's Mary, and she's in this moment, and she's contemplating everything, and she just goes, okay, God, well, be it unto me. This is also overwhelming, but whatever it is your will, God, your will be done. And from what I'm hearing right now in my translation, this all sounds really amazing. Man, part of this journey for you, God, man, we talked about last week about a heavenly adventure. This is a heavenly adventure for sure. You're gonna carry the glory of God inside of you, Mary, and you are gonna give birth to the Son of God. What an amazing moment. Like, what an amazing opportunity. Talk about living in the wonder and the mystery. Like, this is crazy, right? And in this moment here, Mary is, and she's being offered the opportunity that's been so unique, the opportunity that Moses begged for, to not only carry the glory of God, but to see him and hold him face to face.
So good.
So here we are, we seeing how the glory is traveling through the timeline here. We see it happening and being manifested in things like burning bushes and Red Sea's party. And then you've got Moses having this opportunity to see God, but not be able to fully say him. And now here we are coming into the New Testament. And now we're seeing that God's glory was going to be manifested and was actually going to be carried by a woman. That's pretty special and pretty miraculous, right? But the crazy thing to me, guys, that I want to share with you guys this morning, as crazy as it was that Mary had this unique opportunity to carry the glory of God within her, we all share that opportunity today. We all have access to carry the glory of God in us.
So good.
We all do. It's something that God has given to all of us. Because of Jesus, we all now can be Mary. We can all be partakers in the glory of God in our lives. But what that looks like is you have a call, and it's something that you begin to carry in your life. And when you begin to carry this thing, it begins to change everything around you. And over time, you begin to give birth to something, and that thing that you give birth to changes the world around you. And the thing is when you're carrying, and you're with child, and you're carrying something, everybody around you can't help but see it. In fact, what they tell us, I think they're lying sometimes, but they say, you're glowing. You're glowing because you're carrying something within you. And I know that's hard for us to translate into modern day, but when the scripture here is telling us that Mary's carrying the glory and we have access to carry the same glory. Maybe not the same way, but it's the same glory. That we have the same honor and the same privilege as Mary of carrying the glory of God. We can carry that glory. Because of Jesus Christ, that glory lives in us. Because Christ lives in us. And if you're taking notes today, in 1 Corinthians 3:16, it says this: we are his temple and his spirit dwells in us. So we know that Christ's spirit dwells in us. But who is Christ? The glory of God manifested.
Yes.
So Christ's glory now rides in us. Here's another scripture. It's Colossians 1:27. This is Paul speaking. And he says, Christ in me is the hope of glory. Christ in me is the whole glory. And Paul's saying this, he was like, because you can see me, you see the glory of God that lives inside me. And because you see the glory of God living inside me, it gives you hope. Because his glory radiates from me and brings hope to you. That's what the glory of God does.
So good.
Part of Mary's story that we didn't talk about today is when Mary went to visit Elizabeth, as soon as she got there, Elizabeth's baby inside of her began to leap and move. Why? Because even the baby could experience and could feel the glory of God walking to that room because the atmosphere was changing. So let me put this really practical for you guys this morning. What if you carried the glory of God within you enough that when you walk into an atmosphere, it changes? Like your job site, like your home, like your marriage, like your kids. What if we carried that glory as things in our life begin to change because we were so full of the glory of God, the glory that we have access and availability to. And here's actually what it says about the glory that we carry. In Isaiah, this is God speaking to the prophet Isaiah, and he says, everyone who is called by my name, so that's us, we're God's children, we're God's people, he's our God, whom I have created for my glory. I have created you for glory. And I think that's why so many times, either as Christians or as non-Christians, sometimes we feel like we walk around in this world and we don't know what our purpose is. And then we're like, okay, I'm gonna get saved, I'm gonna find my purpose. And we're going like, well, I can't find it. I've been looking everywhere. I've asked every person I know what my purpose is, and nobody can't tell me. Part of our purpose is walking in his glory. That is our purpose. That says what he created us for. And in 2 Corinthians 4:6, here's what it says. I don't have it in my notes. There we go. For it is God who commanded light to shine out of darkness, who has shown in our hearts to give the light of the knowledge of the glory of God in the face of Jesus Christ. We are called to bear that image of Christ, that light, that glory. We should be glowing with glory. And when we do that, we share Jesus with the world around us. And we walk and step into our purpose. I think sometimes with our Christianity and our faith, we think it's really about coming to church and giving us tools and tips to help us live our life better. And as long as me and mine are good, we're good. You're not gonna live a fulfilled Christian life if you stop there. Our purpose is to bring glory to God. Our purpose is to radiate light and change the environment around us. That's what carrying the glory is. And that's why God says to Isaiah, I have created them for my glory. He says, actually, all creation displays my glory. That's how creation walks in its purpose. We are supposed to be glory exhibitors of God's glory. What a significance that we carry. The same unique, amazing significance that Mary would carry, we would carry the same significance. We would carry the same significance to carry the glory of God everywhere that we go. I think though one of our big problems is sometimes we just miss the glory. I think we miss it. I think just even the word glory sounds a little odd. 3 months ago, I probably wouldn't have preached a message about the glory. But y'all gave me 5 weeks off and I just sat on it and couldn't stop thinking about it. So here we are. Sometimes I think we're just missing the glory because I don't think we know what it is. I don't think we know we have it, or I don't think we know we have access to it.
So good.
But we do. We have access to the same glory that Mary had and the same glory that Moses had. We have access to it. And maybe in a deeper, more meaningful way. We have access to that glory. And I think sometimes we think because we haven't had a heavenly host of angels meeting us out in our field as we were tending to our sheep or children, that God's not involved. But he is. He didn't have to send angels anymore because now he had the word of God. He didn't have to send angels anymore because he sent Jesus. Right? So we don't have to have a heavenly host of angels to know that we have access to the glory of God. And that's what Jesus told us in John 14. He says, Jesus answered and says to him, if anyone loves me, he will keep my word, and my Father will love him. And we will come to him, and we will make our home in him. Those who love me and those who want to grow with me, I'm gonna come and make my home in them.
So
and the more I make my home in them, the more glory is going to resonate off of them. They're going to begin radiating glory because I'm making my home in them. Sure, I'm making my home in them for them, but not just for us, for those around us, so we can be light reflectors. It wouldn't be a very good light if it only lit up itself. You take light into a room and that's light's job is to reflect. And it's amazing to see how much light can do in the darkness around him. It can light up an entire room. I got this little book light to read at night, trying to help James out. And it's only about this big. That sucker is so bright. I don't even think James is seeing good today because I blinded him with it. But it's just this small little light, but it just permeates the darkness. That's what light is designed to do. That's what we're designed to do. And we're missing it because we don't think that's what Christianity is sometimes.
So good.
I'm gonna come to church, I'm gonna get what I need so I can make it through my week. No. You're coming to church so you can grow in Christ, so you can develop in him and learn more about him, so he can continue to make his home even more known in you, so that when you go, you radiate light everywhere that you go. That's why. That's carrying the glory. And that's the glory we all carry. So I think sometimes we just don't realize we have access to the glory. We don't know what it is, but that's the glory that we have. But sometimes I think we know we have access to glory, or we know we have a call of God in our life, but we miss it because we're so confused on what it looks like. I think that we think carrying the glory or doing God's will means everything is perfect and everything runs smoothly, no problems. And anytime something bad happens to a Christian, people go, oh, I thought they were a Christian. Like, what? That doesn't mean life is perfect. It means you have somebody perfect to go through it with. You got the perfect shield of protection to protect your mind, heart, and soul, right? And not that there's not favor in a Christian walk, but we have this idea that if we're Christians, everything should be perfect and everything should go as planned. Can we look at Mary's story for a second? The only really great thing that happened in her story was kind of this moment. This marking moment when Gabriel comes and tells her that she is blessed and highly favored among all women. Do we really understand what that means? Because some of you old church ladies say that all the time. I say, how are you? And you say, I'm blessed and highly favored among all women. But see, for Mary, what that meant is the call on God on her life, the glory that she'd be carrying was so strong that she'd have to stay connected to it all times to go through what God was calling her to go through. And that was blessed and highly favored. And it was, because the opportunity to carry the glory of God, there's no greater thing than that opportunity. She was blessed and highly favored. But it wasn't going to be a perfect life. I mean, in that moment, I was giving Mary a hard time saying she was just jumping in and saying yes because it looked like she was going to have a perfect teenager. But I'm sure there were more thoughts in her mind. Like, how was she going to explain this pregnancy to Joseph, to her parents, to her community? Back then, even if you were engaged to somebody, if you were to have adultery with someone, you had to file for a legal divorce and then you'd be shamed forever. So Joseph's going, that ain't my baby. So it would be assumed that Mary had laid with another man at her young age before she was married to Joseph. As she was betrothed to Joseph, she laid with another man. So can you imagine the shame that she would have to go through? Walking through that? Like, can you imagine what Mary felt like? How embarrassing this would be, this journey that she would have to carry alone and pregnant. That was gonna be difficult. So then the journey continues, she ends up, and then she has to come back to Bethlehem for a census. How inconvenient of the timing. I mean, here I am, I'm supposed to give birth to the king, and God, you can't even work some stuff around where the census isn't after birth, right? I think we get convenienced if we have to go an extra leg to the gas station to pick up a few things, we're inconvenienced and we feel like the Spirit of the Lord has left us, right? We forgot something at the grocery store and that's it. We're about to give over our Christian faith because God is not with us, right? It's crazy. So here they are, they're having to go back. She's like super pregnant, riding on a donkey. And maybe you men can't respect that, but I know you ladies can. This is serious what we're talking about. A donkey for miles. And all you women that love to prepare and love to plan, we get our nursery ahead of time. We go pick out our hospital. We fill out the paperwork. We get our nails did. We do the whole thing, right? She didn't get to do this. She didn't even know where she was going when she got there. She had nowhere to go. They show up late at night and she's like, oh, thank God we've made it. All right, Joseph, go get us a hotel. I'll take a 4-star. Mama's pregnant. And they get there and the response is, there's no room anywhere. There's no room in this inn, that inn, anywhere. The best we have for you, Mary, is a manger out in the barn. Not really a manger, it was a feeding trough. You can go out to the feeding trough in the barn. So I don't know about you guys, but when God gives me a call and a purpose and I know it's from God, I just think that everything should go smoothly. And the minute that one little thing goes wrong, I begin to question everything. And I feel like I'm losing the favor of God. I feel like I'm not carrying the glory. Maybe it wasn't the glory of God. Maybe it was I ate too much pizza before bed. Maybe that person that spoke that word over me was just a crazy person. Maybe the day that I had that encounter during worship and I was crying, maybe I was just emotional, right? We begin to discount things in our life and try to make sense of how carrying the glory is difficult at times. But this isn't where it ends for Mary. So she has Jesus. We go through raising Jesus. I'm sure he was a great son and a great boy, but he had the call of God in his life. So I'm sure he wasn't doing what other normal kids do. I'm sure he wasn't playing trucks, just hanging out with mommy. No, at just a young age, he was running away to the temple and going missing. Jesus was busy. He didn't want to hang out with his mom and dad. He wanted to hang out in the temple with the priests, continuing to grow in favor with God. And man, Jesus was busy. And then as he gets older, here's Mary going, I promise everyone, the Holy Spirit's who impregnated me. This is the Son of God. Hey, Elizabeth, it's me on the phone. Listen, he's coming. He's going to dominate soon. He's going to reign over everything. This man for years, 30 plus years, isn't reigning over anything. He's just acting like a carpenter like his dad, and he's quiet, and he's not doing anything. If you don't think they thought Mary was crazy when she first got pregnant, she's definitely crazy now. She's been writing this story out for 30 years. And let me put my mama heart out there, which makes the story even worse, is that the kids that Mary would have would not believe that Jesus was the Son of God until after Jesus had died and rose again. So here it is now. Let's take our brain to Christmas in a couple of weeks. Your kids hate each other and think that your son is a scam. They're not all coming to Christmas. We're not singing carols, no Thanksgiving, nothing, because Jesus is a fake. So this is what this mama is dealing with, and she's carrying this, but she's carrying the glory. She's carrying that call. She'd carry that call all the way to the cross. Then she gets to the cross, and it's her and a couple of friends and maybe one disciple, but no one's there. What happened? Was I crazy? He told me I was blessed and highly favored and that I was gonna carry the Son of God who would reign. God, what's happening? So I have to believe that her seeing Jesus face to face and experiencing that glory is what got her through. Because there's no way a mama could do that without experiencing the glory of God for herself. Experiencing the glory of God for Mary would be crucial in this event. My dad used to say this phrase, and he'd say, experiencing God is the most important thing you'll ever do. Because if you can't experience the glory, you can't carry that glory and walk through with it. You can't. You can't pour out what you don't possess. If you haven't experienced the glory, how will you radiate the glory? And so I look at Mary's story and I think about all the times that she was able to experience the glory of God. Man, there was that night that she experienced the glory when Gabriel came. That wasn't just bad cheese. It wasn't a hallucination. It wasn't too much wine last night. There was an angel in my room and told me I was blessed and highly favored. And then I did give birth and I had laid with Joseph. This is real. This has to be real. Then she gives birth and it's totally not what she thought, not what she planned. Then all of a sudden these shepherds show up. These shepherds show up and they say that God sent them here. Angels came to them and they sent them here. And last week when we were reading that passage, there was this phrase in there that really stuck out to me. And we're talking about the shepherds, and we're talking about the angels and the glory, but there's one phrase that says, and Mary pondered all these things in her heart. I think she had to. I think Mary had to ponder those things in her heart. So she's sitting here in this moment and she's going, I've got to take all this in. All of this that's happening, this angel and this birth and these shepherds and these wise men, all these things, it was a moment that she'd have to wrap her mind around and go, I have to ponder this and I have to keep it. I'm gonna have to behold this moment inside of me forever.
So good.
Because it's gotta be special. This encounter, these things that she was experiencing had to be significant for her to hold on to. Those encounters were important. I wonder if God sent the angel and sent the shepherds and the wise men just to confirm with that mama, you're not crazy. You're carrying the glory. Maybe it was the compassion of God that set up this glorious night. Compassion for his mom? I don't know. Man, there's so many facets to this story, but in the middle of it, all I can see is this loving father that wanted to make sure that Mary, his daughter, who would give birth to his son, would be taken care of. So she has these moments of encounter, and there's not a bunch. I'm not even sure if Mary knew she was carrying the glory until after Jesus had resurrected. She didn't know. There was no confirmation, but she had to pull from within. She had to pull from that place of encounter and experience. And I think that's a scary thing that we're treading on in our Christian faith sometime. We aren't having enough experiences with God for ourselves to sustain the glory that he's called us to. And we're settling for the works of Christianity without the glory and the experience of God. There is no way that Mary could have done this without experiencing God for herself. No matter if she was the greatest person ever, and I'm sure she was. I'm sure she was humble and she was kind and she was pure, but that was a big ask, what God was asking her. There'd be no way for her to go through with this without carrying the glory. So encounters are important. It's those moments of God that keep you through things. Those moments. Man, I look back at my life and I've shared with you guys so many times because it was a marking moment in my life. But when I was 6 and I got water baptized and God spoke to me in that moment, man, throughout my life, there's been so many times I've wanted to walk away from my faith. I've wanted to get discouraged and quit, but I can't get past this marking moment when I felt the tangible glory of the God. I can't get past it. It won't let me go. It sustains me. Some days when I get up here and I don't like any of you guys anymore and I want to quit, I go, no, I'm not crazy. This is what God said, I'm carrying the glory. And I've been fortunate enough for the past years of my life to have more and more moments like that. And every time I'd pick those moments up, I'd put them in my pocket. Why? So I could do like Mary and I could ponder them in my heart.
So good.
I could hang on to them to get me through what God was calling me through. The days that I'm discouraged in my marriage or discouraged with my kids or discouraged with my finances or whatever's going on in my life, I have that pocket full of glory that I can refer to and go, nope, God's called me. He's here. But I think the problem is we're trying to go through life without the pocket full of glory, those experiences that marked us and made a difference. That's why those experiences matter. That's why the glory just can't be something over there. The glory can't just be something that's in this book. The glory has to be something that we have access to, that we experience, that changes us from the inside out. It's got to be different. But I think sometimes we give up or we don't press in, or I don't know, but here's the journey I've been on. I've been on this journey of asking myself, man, how can I be a compatible resting place for the moves of God? How can I be a compatible resting place for the glory of God? That's what God found in Mary. He found a compatible resting place for the glory of God. Man, we talked about it last week a little bit. Can you imagine being the innkeeper and finding out that you were not a compatible resting place for the glory of God? Did you send him away because he didn't look like what you had thought he would look like? Mary, definitely. This was a hot mess on a donkey. That is not the glory of God, and we send it away. How many times are we sending the glory of God away when he's trying to show us he's right here? And when we carry his glory in us, his glory is so big. There's never been a time in history, I don't think, that the full glory of God has been manifested. I would say creating the earth and the universe, God was holding back. Would that be fair?
Yeah, so good.
I mean, I'm not a scientist or I don't know what else you'd be to know that, but I just feel like that was God's glory at 5%, maybe 20, I don't know. But the glory of God is something that's so big and so amazing, it changes everything. And we have the ability to carry that glory in us. And let me tell you what I really want to talk to you guys about today. I've been reading this book, and I came across the story of an American evangelist by the name of Charles Finney. He was a revivalist of the 1800s. And it said that Charles Finney became such a carrier of the glory and the presence of God that he would affect his surroundings without saying a word. The surroundings would change. Not the thing on the wall, but people, the environment would change. And it told this story about him going into a factory mill of factory workers in the 1800s. And when he came into the room, there was this girl. And the closer he got to her, the more she began to weep. But as he walked into that room, everyone in the room, all the men, all the women in the room, began to weep and cry and fell down on their knees and began to repent. People that had never heard about God, didn't serve God, they just fell to repentance. It wasn't because Charles Finney walked into the room. It's because he was carrying the glory of God within him, and it changed the environment that he walked into. And for some of you, maybe that doesn't sit anywhere. You're like, I don't really feel called to that. I don't really want to do that. Well, you probably feel called to do that in your own home, to be able to bring the glory of God into a room and change the environment. And I've just been like obsessing over this idea of, that's what the glory of God looked like when it was manifested in Charles Finney. And again, was that the glory of God at 8%, 10%, 2%? It wasn't max glory. It was just a piece of his glory, it's partial glory. And that's what was manifested. So I'm just really curious in my life, what does the glory of God in my life look like manifested on that scale? Could it be that I carry with me such a Prince of Peace inside of me, that that's the attribute of God that I get to glorify and radiate? And when I walk into a room, it changes and there's peace. Or maybe it's something for restoration. Maybe I have potential to carry a glory inside of me, the glory of the Lord, that when I walk into a room, God's glory fills the place and marriages are restored and families are restored. What if it could be healing? I don't know. What is it for you? When you allow the glory of God to come inside you and you carry the glory the way that Mary did, what's manifested?
So good.
And I just can't help but think about, man, as us, even as the church, what if we all begin to tap into that glory and that was manifested in everything that we did? our jobs places would change, our homes would change, the grocery store would change, everywhere around us would change because we were hosting the glory of the God. And it has to change when you're hosting the God's glory, right? Like, it would be so crazy. And I've just been thinking about that story so much. What an honor for Charles Finney to host the glory of God that way. And then it went on to say there was more to the story. It said there was a guy by the name of Daniel Nash that no one had heard of. But what Daniel would do is Daniel would go about a month ahead of time of Charles Finney. And he'd begin praying over that city for the city to have revival. And so when Finney would get there, revival would break out every single time. And it was crazy. Every city they would go to, the crime rates would drop, the whole city would start functioning better, the schools would be better, everything would start being better every time that Charles Finney went to the city. But years later, Daniel Nash would pass away, and when he passed away, Charles Finney retired. He said, man, it really wasn't just me and God's glory. He said Daniel Nash would go ahead of me for a month, and he would pray for the presence. And I think sometimes we're going, well, I don't know, I just feel introverted, I don't think I can carry the glory. Well, do you feel called to pray for the glory? Do you feel God to push those things through? I think we all play this part in carrying the glory. We talk a lot about Mary's part, but Joseph had a part in carrying the glory. It would actually be his lineage that they would use for Jesus. He had a part to play. Even if his part was just cheering Mary on and saying, keep going, Mary, don't give up. At first, Joseph was going to divorce her. He was going to file the official paperwork to say they wouldn't be married. But an angel also visited Joseph and said, Joseph, you got to help carry the glory. There's so much glory to carry. So we all play a part in this glory. And I know today's probably a really rich topic, and it feels really big, but I think if we don't look at these big topics, we're never going to be able to really apply them to our lives. And again, I just feel like we're overlooking some things in the Christmas story. I think we're overlooking the power that comes with the glory of God, the things that we have access to in our lives. It's not just something in the Bible, it's something that we have today. Everything in the Bible is for us today to live and experience. Every single thing. And as I was going through this message and I was reading Mary's story, I just couldn't help but keep thinking, me too, God. Me too. I want to be a compatible resting place. Whatever it is, God, that you're willing of me, God, work me over. Do whatever I need to do to carry the glory of God, however I need to carry it to the people I need to carry it to. And I would say that probably even 4 years ago, I don't think I felt this way. I think I felt more like, as long as I'm good, like give me the 5 quick tips so I can be a good Christian and then I'll be all right. I tried that and it just wasn't enough. It wasn't sufficing because I wasn't just created to be a good person. I was created to display God's glory to the world around me. That's what I was created for. And I don't know if being in this role maybe has put me in a position to where I just hear stories and stories of brokenness. And I just hear about marriages being torn apart and pornography addictions and kids feeling separate from their family. And man, Oprah's got some great stuff and there's some great helpful tips and there's some great things out there, but some of this stuff doesn't need great ideas or some great things thrown at it. It just has to have the glory of God to fix it. It's impossible. And it breaks my heart because there's more for us to have access to bring the glory of God into everyday situation. I was talking to Mr. Jack, our head usher today. I was talking about the train volunteers in the red shirts. I call it the red shirts. What if the red shirts were all manifesting the glory of God when people came to the train? What if people got on that train and all of a sudden their spouse who they no longer love, they just fell in love again and they had an honor and respect for their mate? What if their kids got connected to the parents and began to honor their families and behavioral issues or all of these things that plague our families were just broken off because that over there was a glory-filled environment. We had it. You came onto this campus, there was just peace and restoration and wholeness because that's what the glory does. It restores things. So I just keep asking myself, I want to be this compatible resting place for you, God. What do I got to do? Be it unto me as unto thy will. Whatever your will is, whatever your word is, God, I want to do that. That longing inside of us to declare your glory that's in all of us. And we think that if we get the house, the car, the money, the whatever, the good character, you won't. You're going to get there and then you're going to still long for more because that's how we were created. We were created to long for that. Created to long for more. So yeah, me too, God. I want to say yes to your purposes. Me too, God. I want to give birth to whatever you have planned for me. I want to carry your glory. I want that, God. Man, I want to carry his glory. So today, I hope this message, I hope it just sits with you like the way it sat with me. I joked last week and I said that I'd been out for all these weeks preaching and I didn't have nothing, and I didn't feel like I did. But what I realized was I was sitting on this. And God was using this topic to speak to me and it for me, but God can speak to you too. And so even if you came in here today and you're like, this is way over my head, don't feel discouraged. Because I'm not speaking to your head, I'm speaking to your spirit. And that's where God wants to talk to you too. So just sit on it and let God do some work.
Well, thanks for watching with us. We hope you enjoyed the message today. We always want to give you an opportunity to be a part of what God is doing around here. So if you'd like to give, you can text LS Church to 77977 or head over to our website at lschurch.tv. Again, thanks for watching. I hope you have an amazing week, and we hope you'll join us again next week.